course, I'm doing it in my car. Welcome to Zaudz Vision, but my bad. Welcome to Zaudz Vendetta. It is your boy Neil the Zaud One. But basically, man, I know this ain't like the regular format of a podcast, but I just wanted to get into this whole breaking news. Of course, you know, we've been following this Brittney Griner, whatever the hell her name is, the basketball star that's a WNBA. Like, you know, I won't even go into that. But so of course, you know, this chick had been going back and forth for the longest time doing what she basically did, and that's I'll say bringing paraphernalia. And for the most part, they've been paying attention to her for quite some time, but never really, sorry about that, hopefully the audio is good, but they've been paying attention to her for quite some time, but just, you know, all of a sudden, due to certain things that's taking place, they happen to want to detain her out of all the times that she's been doing this. And it's understandable with the whole war going on in the Ukraine and Russia being at the top of everybody's hit list as far as like people that people want to hate the most. But you know, it's been like that since the Cold War. Russia has always been seen as an adversary, and people have always wanted to erase them off the map, if simply for the fact that most Russian leaders have had a certain mindset and a way of doing things that offended the West. And then plus they, you know, they're the same as everybody else. They hated us just as much. You've seen it with the Cuban Missile Crisis, but you also seen how the U.S. You know, interfere with their whole taking of Afghanistan, and but they've been playing this back and forth since the Vietnam War, and even before that, it's always the undermining of the next. And I get it, because two superpowers, everybody wants to vie for the top, but of course there can really only be one. Like you know, there was a guy, he was a general at the time when they had did the whole I think it was the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki or whatever. He had made a comment, and it was towards Russia. I guess, I don't know if he was making you know, making his presence known as far as like what his thoughts were on Russia, but I don't know if it was like a joke or in jest, like I say, the joke. But he had said something along the lines that, you know, basically we should just go bomb Russia. And you know, due to the communist influence in the United States at that time, people were put off by that fact. Now, if he said it, most red-blooded Americans would be, you know, they will go for it. He would probably get voted into office just off that rhetoric. But at that time, it was seen as something because they really didn't want to, you know, antagonize the bear. Because I mean, whether we're number one superpower or not, there is, you know, Russia is a power to be reckoned with. They're not just somebody that you're gonna push over. They, you know, you see Putin. He's been he made his way to power. He climbed to the top, and anybody that has ever tried to compete against him has somehow bowed out. But you know, especially seeing that he was at one time in the KGB. I mean, you can only see why, but that's besides the point. You know, the whole thing is about this this WNBA star and Victor Bout. Now, Victor Bout was an arms dealer. How extensive of a history he has in arms dealing is something that I really haven't did too much research on, because I just really haven't paid attention. When I first heard that there was ongoing talks with the potential swap of prisoners, I was like, nah, it's not going to happen, because, you know, then again, the United States doesn't compromise with terrorists. But seeing that he's not necessarily classified as a terrorist, but anybody that's selling of arms to terrorists should be classified as that. But I'm not here to speak on the morals of Victor Bout. I'm here to simply, you know, make a statement that this is the times that we're in. You know what I mean? Not only did they do this little swap, you know, they're trying to, I think they put this out also to, you know, shadow the fact that they're constantly letting out these pedophiles in a mass exodus, and nobody really knows why. There's some of these pedophiles that only been in jail for like a year are being released back to the street. Now, it's one thing, you release murderous people, feel like somehow they're going to reoffend and just murder a whole lot of people. But most of the time these murders are committed, especially the ones like in California, because it's due to gang violence, crimes of passion, so on and so forth. So to reoffend and just be on a mentality that's on a serial killer level is something that, you know, I find ludicrous. But of course California would rather keep people that can be rehabilitated in jail and release a buttload of pedophiles, no pun intended. But it's like, it's been proven that when you allow a pedophile to get released back on the streets, more times out of 10 he's going to reoffend it, and it's going to be a lot more horrendous. It's never really stays the same. They tend to escalate in their fantasies. They tend to escalate in what they do, as far as when they're trying to, you know, accomplish what they need to. Like they may have started off just looking, then, you know, it went from that to stealing, you know, maybe you know, as far as like clothing or something like that. And then, you know, I'm just trying to keep it soft as possible, because I know that is sickening to a lot of people. It hurts my stomach just to think about a grown man taking advantage of a child. But it's just one of those things that happens, you know what I mean? And it continues to happen because California being a liberal state, and it's no shot at liberals, even though I'm a conservative, but this is no shot at liberals. It's just to point out the fact that some of your leaders are a little bit off their rocker. Like, I get it. You guys don't like Trump. You don't like this. You don't like that, because they take a hard line on American standards, but they don't want to soften a lot other. The rhetoric can sometimes be outdated and a little bigotous, but it's just their opinions. Now, an opinion is one thing. Affecting a whole population is another. Like, they can try to get things done, but it usually takes the power of everybody in order to pass one thing. And then we won't even go into who actually makes laws, but I just say like this: most of them are puppets in power anyway. They control absolutely nothing. They don't influence nothing. They're just a face. They're just a face. Now, that's why I've said it a million times. Like, you know, America as a country is getting soft, and people find that comforting in a sense. Like, especially people that tend to go way left, the people that want to hug on trees, and people that want to, you know, have talking points on things such as this, as far as like pedophiles. And they see that as a good thing. Like, I remember talking to somebody that said that they actively talk to pedophiles because they're people and they need love. And I literally want to throw up in my mouth just hearing that come out of this person's mouth. But then when I really like delve deep into the way they think and just their life in general, then I see why somebody of that nature would think on that level. But it was more monetary than anything. And it's sad, because these are the type of people you deal with. I'm sorry that it's starting to get dark. I need to go back to work, but of course I'm taking my break in order to make this video, because I felt like it's a slap in the face for somebody. Like, I get it, you know, when an American is stuck somewhere, your first instinct is to want to help them bring them back. And the U.S. has been known to drop everything. Like, but it's usually because they have an accord with somebody. Like when Lebanon, when that whole war was taking place between them and Israel, the U.S. was allowed to bring in, you know, yachts, not yachts, but like whole, you know, like the ones that do like the carnival and stuff like that. They brought in a whole one just to start loading up American citizens, because they didn't want them to get caught in the drama that was taking place between Lebanon and Israel. And that's the type of stuff that literally makes me feel proud that they would, you know, go and get their citizens to show them that this is what it means to be an American. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of corrupted stuff in the United States, and a lot of people that are just corrupt, period. And when it comes down to it, it's kind of like the lesser of two evils, you know what I mean? It's like who, like my friend says, he says he goes with who lies the less, and though he, you know, he chose his party, and sometimes he may not feel 100% with them. It is a party that he chose, and when they say things and do things that he just doesn't find right, he simply doesn't vote. Now, the whole thing with this, like, I get it. You not only had people, the bleeding hearts that wanted her home, but you also had her community. And this is not to bring up the whole LGBTQ community, but they do have a lot of power, and people continue to downplay the fact that they got a lot of power, and they come together when they need be. Now, do I think that it was worth the swap as far as on a human being level? I think, you know, it's good to want to save somebody's life, and her being in a Russian prison was kind of harsh, especially knowing how Russia feels about the U.S. and their citizens. Now, that's not to say every Russian hates the U.S., but the mentality of most Americans are arrogant, and a lot of places that they go are overbearing and entitled, and people tend to hate that fact about the U.S., but they do like the money. And seeing that now China and Russia have an accord, and they're trying to, you know, do away with the dollar and just make it all gold. They've put stake in gold, and they've did a lot of things. And it's sad. It's sad in a sense that it does kind of affect the U.S. dollar. And the U.S. dollar has been in decline for a long time. The U.S. doesn't even own their own currency. Let's just put that on the table. But the whole thing with this trade, I think it showed a sign of weakness. On one edge, the good thing, they brought her home. She deserved to be home. I mean, come on. Like, Russia should have just let that go, but they were being petty in order to show the U.S., look, we can strong arm you as well. And being a WNBA star may not be as high as the NBA, but she still stacks high on that level, and she is a major athlete. So, of course, the U.S. is going to do what they do to bring her home. Hopefully, the audio is all right. You know, I'm just trying this lavalier mic. But they're going to do what they do, and it's also a show of power. They could have been, you know, and been resistant, and she might have did the whole 9 years and came out fine, but there's also a chance that she could have died in prison, and it would have looked a lot worse on the U.S. And I think it's kind of like one of the things, it's a win-win or win-loss, whatever, because in one edge you got a WNBA star that's loved by a lot of people out here that made a mistake, but then again, you traded her for a dude that's a arms dealer, and I don't even want to speak on his nickname because there's no need for me to, you know, glorify his standing or anything. It's just, you know, when you weigh it, the lesser of two evils would have been you keeping him in prison, and she would have did her 9 years. But now somehow he's going to go to Russia, and eventually he's going to get lost in the system. They're going to ask where he's at. He's probably going to be back doing what he do, because an arms dealer, when you think about it, to people that are warmongers, is a lot more profitable than keeping some lady in jail because she decided to bring you know, marijuana to the U.S. and not even in the form of, you know, it just, you know, in her, you know what I mean? And that was mostly to you know, calm her nerves, and it's something that she needs. It's medicinal reasons why she smoked weed and, you know, whatever. Now, that's all I'm really saying on that. It really made no sense. Like, I don't think her not doing 9 years was worth them releasing an arms dealer. But then again, I'm not here to speak on the morals of Victor Bout or any other person. Her family does, you know, I just said like this. She deserves to be home. Her family deserves to have her home. Was I worried about her spouse? No. She deserved to come home, and hopefully she'll see this and understand that it's real consequences to when you do things of this nature. You cannot go to another hostile country, because I consider them hostile. They don't really like us. To go to a hostile country and just think you're going to do what you want to, if simply for the fact that you're a WNBA star. Because, not to downplay you, but WNBA is not as hot as the NBA by far. So most people tend to overlook you. But, you know, being the Olympics and all this other stuff taking place, and you know what I mean, people, the light just happened to shine on you at the right time. But just be thankful that, you know what I mean, that this happened, that people actually went to bat for you, because it could have been just as easy as them letting you rot in prison. But I don't know, you know, for people that follow my podcast, do you think it was right that she was able to get out of this? Do you think anybody else would have been able to get out of prison in another country, and do you think for the average person, they were willing to give up, to give up somebody of his nature, Victor Bout, I'll just say his name again, for somebody that was just a mere athlete? Like, if they were just a regular person? Because there's a lot of people, and if you really do your research, there's a lot of people in other countries that they're there and they ain't never getting out. They're stuck there, and there's no out for them. You know what I mean? You got people in North Korea that are stuck. That's another hostile country towards the U.S. You got other people in other countries that have been executed due to the fact that they made a small infraction in that country, and the U.S. hasn't went to bat for them. I mean, what do you think about this? This is one of those things that's mind-boggling. It's something that, you kind of got to look at and wonder, like, what's really going on, you know what I mean? But to make them want to release an arms dealer, somebody that is basically a merchant of death. I mean, every country is a merchant of death in some way or another, especially when you're a warmongering country, you know what I mean? Or you're just into the things that a lot of these countries are into. But man, we can go so far down the rabbit hole on why this took place and why it should have took place. But then again, it's, the U.S. did a good thing. I'll give you that. And Russia also did a good thing, because they could have just rubbed it in the U.S. face. There's so many arms dealers and people that are low-budget criminals and high-ranking criminals in Russia that an arms dealer with just one thing, because they can always get it from other places. But I think it was more a show of, look, you're going to bow. You're going to do exactly what we tell you to do, because we hold, you know what I mean? We hold something that you want, that you need, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, like, it's one of those things, like I said, we can go down the rabbit hole just thinking about why they did what they did, why they would choose to let somebody of that nature go, and what was really you. But you also got to think like this. It's not just that. It has to be other things. There's no reason why just for a WNBA star they would let him go. It was something else. There's something else that happened. There was something else that they made a trade on. It was some type of accord made, backdoor deals. Like, you got to really just look at the whole thing. Like I said, a U.S. patriot I am. Like, I have faith in my country to do good and bad. It's been proven. I am a dark patriot. And for most people will not know what that is. But it's just, we believe in a few different things, you know what I mean? Some good, some bad, but it's all, life in general comes with a price. Being able to live in this country it comes with a price, you know what I mean? It's nothing's for free, and it goes without saying, you know what I mean? But yeah, so we won't get into that. We're just, I consider myself a dark patriot, and there's a lot of other people that consider the same thing. We think on the same level, but I don't think this trade was fair. But you know what I mean? Who am I to, try to make any decision for the U.S.? I'm just a regular citizen, just like everybody else. And even in the sense of being a citizen, not necessarily all the way a citizen, because prior record, you know what I mean? I'm unable to, protect myself with firearms. I'm unable to do a lot of things. But, that's the price of throwing away your rights, you know what I mean? When you're out there doing things that don't necessarily reflect the morality of this country, which, I mean, the U.S. does a lot of immoral things, but it's like, you get what I'm saying. Like, you got a lot of citizens out here that they're not doing crime. They've never been a gangbanger, never took part in anything. They're not on drugs. They're not doing nothing. They're doing what they need to do. Their whole goal is that white picket fence and a nice house with a good wife, dog, and kids. And some people are living that. Some people live it as a facade, but there's a lot of people actually living that life. They're not out here doing what other people do. So they're making a way, so they deserve their rights. And people like me that have got in trouble and did certain things, we forfeit them rights. We have forfeited it because we chose to forego a lot of good things and go another route with it. And we pay the, you know, maybe one day the laws change, people see that we can be rehabilitated, and then we get certain rights back. Because I mean, being able to protect your family is a major thing to me, and by any means will I protect them. You know what I mean? It's one of those. It doesn't. You don't have to have a gun or nothing. Like I will protect my family. But like I said, this is Zaudz Vendetta TV, and I plan on covering a lot of different topics. Hopefully my strong points will be a lot stronger when I actually have a few co-hosts and we really get into conversations that's a lot more conducive. I'm really all over the place right now because, like I said, my break is almost up. I need to go back to work, and it's just one of those things that's kind of like, you know, it's mind-boggling to see the shady deals that's being made. And it was a shady deal. Like I said, she deserved to be home, but no way was her time worth them releasing him. But that's just what we see. I can guarantee you there was other things, if not the same day that she got released, there was other backdoor deals being made in the future. Like, look, we know you got this, we need this. And it's just one of those, it's always been like that. It's always been like that. But, you know, this whole, you know, pissing contest between the U.S. and Russia has been going on, like I said, for a long time. I mean, they have books on the CIA undermining Russia's run towards taking over Afghanistan. And then what happened? Afghanistan turned around and turned on us. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, it's one of those things. It's like you reap what you sow. You know what I mean? And we could go into the whole Osama bin Laden and being a CIA and you know, being a killer for Bush. We can go into all that, but it's no, you know what I mean? We're not trying to go too far down the rabbit hole. The whole thing was just this. What do you think? Do you think that it was right? Do you think that her life, well, she wasn't dying or nothing, but do you think her release was worth them giving back an arms dealer of his level? Because I hear that he wasn't just no normal cat, that he was really up there. So, you know, I digress. You know, that's just something that we'll never really know, what shady deals have been made, you know what I mean, and the powers that be that wanted him out on the street. Because I believe it's not just Russia. A few people probably wanted out, just wasn't able. It's like one of them things, you watch a million shows that really tell what's going on, but you just see them as shows, and they spell out the whole recipe and how easy it is to make things go a certain way. But of course, as you know, when you're just a citizen and you're not really delving into different, you know, you tend to go through everything in life with your blinders. And that's the difference between a dark patriot and a blind patriot. A blind patriot will see everything and believe everything, and no matter what the government says, the government is right. A dark patriot believes that there are necessary evils, you know what I mean, and sometimes things have to be did for the greater good. Sometimes sacrifice had to be made, you know what I mean, and not necessarily anybody else, but sometimes. And I just stray away from that because it's like one of those things, like it can go deep. Like I can go deep with it, exactly, you know, whatever the way people think. But hopefully things will get taken care of. Hopefully it was worth it, which I doubt it. And hopefully this whole exodus of pedophiles being released from prison will somehow change. Maybe somehow the liberals of this state will see that it was a mistake and hunt down every last one of these fools and throw them back in jail to do the time that they so justly deserve, because they do. If you touch a kid, you deserve to be in prison for the rest of your life. If you can put a guy in prison for attempted murder on another gang member, you can put these fools in here because they are doing just as worse. This is trauma that lasts. When you die, you just die. When you harm a child, that's a scar that lasts forever. And 9 out of 10, a lot of them go on to offend and do the same exact thing that happened to them because they can't really reconcile with what happened to them. So they're kind of like lost and wondering why, or just these feelings of just wanting to hurt people back because they got hurt. You see what I'm saying? It's a whole different spectrum of emotions and how they deal with things. And that's why I say, like, when it comes down to it, they can't be rehabilitated, and that's a proven fact. You know what I'm saying? It's a proven fact, and I think the sooner people recognize that fact, they'll get it. Just think about it like this. What if it was your kid? What if it was your kid that was going through things? What if it was your family that was going through? What if it was your kid that got touched? What if it by letting these cats out, your family ends up being next? You know what I mean? I've seen the effects of drugs and what happens when people when things of this nature happens. They tend to turn to drugs in order to dull the pain. They end up falling into the wrong crowd. They end up doing a lot of different things, and some of them like end up doing a lot worse than what happened to them, which there's no real level of worse, but it's like if something happens to you and you going to do multiples, then I would consider something of that on that level as worse. But you know, I can go on all day about this, and it's just a rabbit hole we're gonna constantly go down. But you know, hopefully, you know, that was all that took place, and hopefully somehow or another, you know, they decide what they really want to do. But the whole outing of pedophiles, but yet. Look at, and I'll just say this in this. If you notice, the pedophiles came down. Before that, they wanted to let murderers and all this other stuff out without any bail. Just let them out. You see what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not here to speak against, you know, because I've been on the other side of that fence. But it's just like, it's a pattern. People wanted to get rid of the police and all this, and look what's starting to happen. LA has turned up to a level to where it's almost back to where the 90s were, and other states are following suit. You got people that were normally just regular gang members that are turning to basic serial killers because they feel like they can, you know what I mean? And it's just, so nowhere you really go is safe, from the richest to the poorest neighborhood. You can be God either place, and by letting these pedophiles on the street, you make it even worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things that's just, you got to think about it. With that being said, Zaudz Vendetta TV, be looking for regular podcasts. You know what I mean? The whole format of it. And with that being said, you enjoy the rest of your night. And I'm going. If I can find this. Yeah.